Hello, everybody. Hello, welcome everyone for this second workshop of the StartOnline. As you know, today we will first start with the masterclass of entrepreneurs' testimony who are already there in the crowd of the participants. So we will have Victoire Bach, who is a co-founder of Hopia, who is actually an entrepreneur of the seed program in the Paris campus, and Damian Py, who also has been an entrepreneur of the Blue Factory a couple of years ago, founder of Daan Tech. And then we will dive into co-development, networking sessions. So
let's start on this conversation. In order to start so that everybody can know you and know a bit who you are, maybe could you, each of you, give us an insight about what is your company today, so that we know already what is Hopia today and what is Daan Tech today. And then we'll do a travel in the beginning of your journey. But let's start at least to know who you are, what you do, and what is the size and the current activity of your organization. Maybe Victoire, you can start.
Okay. So hi everyone, and the one I didn't see already. Hopia is a web application currently that aims at helping nurses and practitioners build their planning in hospitals because it's a hustle and they do the team plannings by hand. So we developed this web application and we connected it to different algorithms to make it way more quicker. And our mission is to help practitioners and nurses save precious time for their patients.
Thank you. And today you are developed in how many organizations?
Today the application is tested in 2 departments since September 2021. And we are doing the roadmap to deploy it on 1,500 people in one entire hospital.
Super, thank you. What about you, Damian?
Daan Tech is an industrial company, so we are a manufacturer of home appliances. Our first product, maybe you have heard about it, is a small dishwasher which is called Bob, like SpongeBob. So it's very easy to remember. Currently, we are operating in 2 main sites. So we have one factory based in Western France, 1 hour by drive from Nantes, which employs around 40 people working full time. And we have offices in Paris with a marketing team specialized in content creation, web management, etc. We also opened in January our subsidiary in the US for entering the US market. And last year we made around 10 million euros of revenues. And we expect to reach 30 million euros of revenues within 3 years with the release of our next product and by entering the markets.
Whoa. So as you see, we've taken two speakers that are at different stage of their company, but still are a bit further than all the participants here, and we will dive into the very beginning. So my first question would be to understand, so if you get back to the just before you started, what was your past before starting a company? Maybe even you've been working on other projects before having this one, let's say, starting to roll on, and why did you finally choose this one? And when and how did it really start at the beginning? So it's more like your personal journey before starting and when starting. Maybe Damian, would you continue?
Yes, sure. So actually, our company right now is 6 years old, but 7 years ago, I would have never imagined to be manufacturing dishwasher and selling dishwasher one day. Somehow I joke about it today that I'm a dishwasher salesperson. So actually, I entered the ESCP in 2013. By the time I didn't know what I wanted to do. Actually, like most people, I wanted to work in finance or things like that. I did several internships. Particularly, I did one at BPI France, which is a French public investment bank that helps startups and small companies to grow in France and internationally. And this really raised me like the interest for entrepreneurship, because I was on the side of the bank, but I wanted to be on the other side of the mirror and to become an entrepreneur. I also did an internship within a small company specialized in telecommunication. And it was very interesting because there were only like 15 people working full time. So I was very close to the CEO and I learned a lot of things, and it seemed like possible to me. And actually, during my BPI internship, I met my current co-founder who had the idea of a mini dishwasher in 2009, so a long time ago, but he did not he never launched the project. He kept it in his mind, but never crossed the gap to become an entrepreneur. And we decided to launch the company in 2015 with the aim of proving that it was possible to make in France high quality products at an affordable price. So actually the idea behind making dishwasher is not just making dishwasher, but proving an idea, proving that it's possible to manufacture in France affordable products. So that was the reason why we started Daan Tech 6 years ago.
Wow. What about you, Victoire?
We have common things in common with Damian, but I entered ESCP in 2015 and I pitched an idea of startup in the oral interview that looks like what is HelloFresh right now. I wanted to democratize gastronomy at home. That was an idea, but I realized I was young, I needed experience, and maybe it was a hard market to tackle. So I left the idea, and I was at ACP. I got a bit lost in strategy consulting, but I did also electives in entrepreneurship, and always had different ideas, either personal or for business. And after strategy consulting, I realized that I needed more concrete stuff. So entrepreneurship was even closer. And I worked a lot with a dentist, and I realized they had no real software to help them in their daily basis. I developed the whole idea. I even knew how to deploy it commercially. And I kept talking with dentists who told me, oh, that's a great idea. But I kept talking with dentists, and once told me, okay, that's nice, but I already have an idea. And at that moment, I realized my market was completely blocked because the number of dentists is blocked in France. And also that it's not an open-minded market and might not be the best idea to develop a software and very techy software. At that moment, I was in an internship at Roland Berger Tech Ventures, and I worked on a fundraising program and worked on different projects for startups. And I went to Viva Technology. I was preparing for entering to Centrale Supélec to become an engineer myself. And I met Damian at the moment.
Yeah, I remember.
And you told me, you told me your path, and you told me why you wanted also to be an engineer plus the business school. And you told me, and I remember that you didn't wanted any engineer telling you, no worries, you don't know what you're talking about. Believe in me, I will do it. That maybe not the right words, but the idea was here. And that totally convinced me that doing an engineering school was the best idea I may have to complete my degree and to complete my knowledge and build something after. And there at Centrale Supélec, I met my co-founder, Matthias, in Coding Weeks, and we realized we really liked working together. And we had a startup week and we wanted to imagine what could be, how we could help in the health technology through AI. But we realized we were not doctors. So what can we do as that team? And realized that the hospital didn't have any proper software to manage their resources. And we realized we might help them with...
Just how did you realize that? Because you didn't realize it by just thinking about it. I guess you interviewed people, or I mean, how did you realize what was lacking?
We knew we could help at some points. The hospitals that was in February 2020. COVID-19 was quite far, and we saw in the news that the people were striking. Nurses and practitioners were striking because of lack of resources. So we said, okay, maybe we can do something. And the idea I had for dentists, I realized it might be very useful for hospitals. So we built the whole idea. I'm not the only one there behind the idea, but we built it together. And on the very first week, during the startup week, we started talking to people. And that was the main thing, because we interviewed hospital directors, we interviewed nurses, practitioners, and so on, because we knew we wanted to help them with their resources, but we didn't know what resource. And they told us, please help us with the planning. It's a hustle. We just don't know how to do it. So we decided to focus on that because we could not do the whole resources. We might do it one day. We want to develop different services and we might do it one day, but we focused on one thing and we just never stopped, and we never stopped talking to people. And Hopia was built by and thanks to the practitioners and nurses. We want to do something for the users, and that was very important for us because the feedbacks were usually the hospital directors decide for a software, but they never know if it's well used, if it's useful. And they just impose it, and we just don't like it, so we don't use it. And we didn't want it that, so we started from the bottom to go up.
Thanks a lot for this presentation of the journey of the before. So, okay, once you are on the topic of what you want to build, and there I'm asking Damian also to start. So you decide to associate with this entrepreneur that you met that has this crazy mini dishwasher, and you think, okay, why not? And you see behind a bigger picture of rethinking industry. So how do you start? So you were an engineer. You were also working, studying as
actually, I did the same as Victoire. So that's why it was very interesting when we met at Viva Tech, because actually I did a prépa at a business one in France. So I entered the SCP Grande École program. And then I attended Supélec in double degree with the SCP after studying mathematics at the Sorbonne. I also studied artificial intelligence at the École Normale Supérieure. And yes, that's it. And the idea behind, for me, it was more a question of values. But when my co-founder contacted me, he pitched me the project. I was not very convinced. But when I went back to my home, I saw the dirty dishes in my sink, and I called him back and I told him, yes, maybe there is something to do. And that is how everything started. So at the very beginning, we were totally broke because, I mean, for myself, like my parents don't have higher education. So actually, we just started in a basement in Paris with a very limited means. So what we did was a rapid prototyping with materials that are easy to buy, like at Leroy Merlin, things like that. And then after that, since I worked at BPI France, I applied to a lot of grants and subsidies, and I managed to get some. And with the first subsidies I get, it was 30,000 euros. We bought 3D printers. We hired our first intern with whom we made the design of the Bob dishwasher, and it moves on. In 2018, we moved to Vendée, to Western France.
Wait. Can you just tell me about this Leroy Merlin thing? Like, I just cannot
Yes,
imagine. You went to Leroy Merlin and you bought, what did you bought and what did you build?
actually,
figure out what it is.
there was the tech shop. By the time actually it closed, they were bankrupt. They have been bankrupt since, but it was a kind of a fab lab. So actually, we went to Leroy Merlin's fab lab, and we tried to prototype the product with what was available on the market. So also, what we did was a lot of reverse engineering. So actually, we bought a lot of second-hand dishwashers to dismantle them and to see how they work. Because, like, I mean, even if I was an engineer, I knew nothing about dishwashers. Like, there is no dishwasher school. So actually, we needed to learn everything from scratch, like being ignorant. So we just bought products, dismantled them, and we tried to understand how they work. And that's the way actually we managed to understand how it works.
And how long did it take? How long did you do this exploration before having this grant? How long
about 1 year actually. It was during my last year of studies at TSCP and the Central Supélec. So I spent one year doing this, like all my weekends, all my days on which I was free. I spent all my time doing that with my co-founder.
And you were living thanks to living at your parents' place, or personally how were you?
I was totally broke. So did my parents. So actually, I had a cruise grant, and so
like a state
I lived. Yeah. Yes, I lived with 650 euros per month. So I ate a pasta every day by the time. But yeah.
Okay, and so thanks, this prototype helped you to get the BPI funding.
Actually, we got the BPI funding to make the prototype. So actually, the first thing we did was to apply to the BPI grant to get some financing to be able to make the prototype. And yes, that is a precious advice. The way public funding is designed in France, you need to apply before doing any expense, because actually you need to have an expense plan and you need to apply before starting the expenses. Once you have started the expenses, it's too late. So it's really, it's very important to start early on to apply to the BPI grants.
And the funding are for innovation.
Yes, exactly. So that's a very good point. So actually you can't finance projects that are not innovative. So by itself, a dishwasher is not an innovative product. So we need it to innovate. So actually, we came with an ultrasonic dishwasher. So it was the way to make it innovative. So actually, when we applied to the BPI grant, it was for developing an ultrasonic dishwasher. So actually, we developed it for more than 2 years, for 3 years actually. But just before starting the industrialization, we pivoted and we dropped the ultrasonic side, because actually it was expensive, and actually people didn't care about washing with ultrasonic cleaning. They just wanted to get the dishes clean at an affordable price. So we just dropped it off.
After 3 years.
After 3 years, yeah. But we got the financing thanks to the ultrasonic cleaning.
Maybe you will reuse it later.
Yeah, maybe.
What about you, Victoire? How did you prototype?
How did you we first found a solver to an algorithm, something that will help us solve the idea. So we found different beta testers that still are beta testers. I mean, just love them and thanks them so much. Doctors and someone who deals with the planning in a clinic. And the first thing we showed them was an Excel sheet with their planning. And we said, okay, that's an algorithm which did that. And the main objective was to mimic what the human do. So we had to ask them, okay, what's the first step? How do you do it? What's the constraint, etc. And we built a prototype, algorithm prototype, that we don't use it anymore, but it helped us confirm that we may mimic what the human is doing, because that's not for sure. For people who did math, It's an NP complete problem. So that's one of the the most complex problem. So we're not even sure that it was possible to do it. And everyone told us, that's so weird because there is no solution. You said there's no solution. Why? So we had to explain the why and to say, okay, we can do it. We will do our best to do it, and we will test it all the time. And something that we still do is when we have an idea of a function, the idea often comes from our users. They call me all the time and say, oh, what do you think about doing that? Okay, I just take notes and then talk to the team. And when we talk to the team in front of the whiteboard, that's our best friend. Together we build the functionalities. And then we do some mockups and we show the mockups to the doctors and to the nurse and to the people who use the app, because we don't want to develop something that won't be used or that we will have to change. And our developers love us for that, because they don't want to do something that we will change 2 months later. So we always confront our ideas that even come from the users, and we confront how we translated their ideas to the users. So it's like a circle.
Damien,
Yes, just
you were reacting
something on what Victoire told. Actually, it's very important to listen to the users, to listen to the market, because actually, in the end, it's the market who decides. So, for instance, for us, all the features we got them by asking to people who are interested in our products. And actually, at the very beginning, very often we wanted to stop, to quit, because it was very difficult. There was no funding. Everyone told us that we were crazy, that there was no market. It was a waste of time. We needed 3 million to release the product. It was not possible to raise this amount in France, etc., etc., etc. But actually, every time we talked to people who were interested in the product, people wanted to buy it. And they gave us advice on how they wanted the product. So actually, we really designed the product to meet the requirements of our customers. And even for the price, actually, we came up to the price by asking to people on trade shows how much they would pay for the product. That is how we came to a price between 300 and 400 euros, because it was the price that people were ready to pay for our device. So it's very important, as Victoire said, to really listen to the customers.
And,
Sorry.
And I still add something. It's important to listen to the customers. It's important to listen to various customers, because if you only talk to one person, they might have some ideas, but it's idea for them. So we always try to ask different people, either practitioners, nurses, people from the public sector, private, people working in surgery rooms, or people working in emergencies, to be sure that we are not developing a product with really good ideas, but really good ideas for one specific sector. So keep asking your users, but don't be careful of the biases. There's always biases, because if you ask your friends that might be buyers, they may have great ideas, but that's people from your own circle with the same manners, often with the same habits. And it might be good ideas. It might be ideas that you can scale to various kind of people, but try to find who might be your users and keep talking to different people.
And by the way, about with the Bob dishwasher, you had released a new version. So I guess that when you sent the first one, you had some feedback from users that let you make another one, and also I saw that new products arrived to wash, because we have, so at the Blue Factory in Paris, if you want to see a Bob, we have a blue Bob, so you are welcome to test it. And yeah, so how did you integrate the feedback of real buyers?
Yeah, so actually, it's very important to talk with a lot of potential buyers, and we developed our product iteratively, which means that actually, if you read, I think the book is The Lean Startup, you'd first do a first version of the product, show it to potential customers, get feedback, improve it, and this way, actually, you iterate and somehow it converges towards the right solution. And it is exactly what we have done. In total, we did several, like some dozens of prototypes in total, because each time actually, like the first one was a very gross prototype with a plexiglass for the main body. So it was very like, actually it didn't work. Like it was just to show the idea to people. Then we did a 3D printed one, then another one, etc., etc. And each time we improved some features. For instance, when we showed, I think it was the 7th prototype, actually the filling of the water tank was at the back of the product, but it was very difficult to use. For instance, if you have a shelves in your kitchen. So the feedback we got from users was to put the filling at the front so that if you have shelves, you can fill it easily. And this way, I think we covered most of the pain points user could have with the product.
Yeah, and by the way, maybe you can tell us about the crowdfunding that you had, because that, I guess that was one of the possibility for you to show a first product, sell it, and get these feedbacks. So maybe you can, because I stopped you when you were telling us about the BPI, and then you were starting to speak about Vendée. Maybe you can give us the step, because also it is so crazy what you did with this factory that you bought and etc. So
yes,
I let you tell the steps.
Actually, what I always say is that you don't need a product to sell it. And when you are totally broke, you need money, so you need to sell products. So what we did was that we sold a product that did not exist by the time. So actually, what we did was after doing the first few prototypes, we presented them to the management of the last dishwasher factory in France. They were not convinced at all, but we were crazy enough to convince them to allow us to rent some part of the factory to make bigger prototypes, to have access to more infrastructures to do our testing on our prototypes. And we developed the 7th version that was in terms of design close enough to the final product that we were able to show it to a lot of customers. So what we did by the time is that we carried a crowdfunding campaign on our own website, so people could just pre-order it on our website, choosing the color and the options they wanted. And to be known, what we did is that we did a lot of PR and social networks. So actually, we did some buzz on the social networks. By the time it was Facebook, and also we had a lot of press articles regarding the product, because the values behind the product were very strong. The things related to relocation of manufacturing in France, etc. It was something very trendy by the time. And this way, we managed to pre-sell 6,000 units of our product at 200 euros. So within 1 month, we collected 1.2 million euros. And in 1 month, we went from broke entrepreneurs to solvable clients. And this way, actually, we managed after that to convince investors to follow us, to convince our industrial partner to work with us, and also banks to lend us some money. But it was not the end of the story, because just after we succeeded in our crowdfunding, the factory went bankrupt. So actually, we needed to find another one. So we set up a new one. We hired personnel. We hired staff from the factory that went bankrupt, and we set up everything. But it took like 1 extra year, and we finally managed to start the production only in November 2020, almost 2 years after the initial crowdfunding.
And so, how did you manage the communication with your supporters that like delay enormously your delivery?
Yes, so actually we try to be always very transparent with our customers, to share with them information about what was happening. So like is usually done with crowdfunding. And I remember when we knew the news of the bankruptcy of the factory, we made a video in which we explained to our clients that the factory was closing and we will need to set up a new one. And actually, it's very funny because they said we had a martial look because we were very like formal, etc. but actually consumers understood our difficulties and they did not ask for a refund. Actually, most of them kept their pledge, and we didn't have a lot of refund because people were really committed to the values. Actually, I think it was Steve Jobs who said, people don't buy your product, they buy the reason why you are like making your product. And actually it was really what we had with Bob. People were not buying just a dishwasher, they were buying like restarting manufacturing dishwashers in France. And that's the reason why they kept their pledges despite all the difficulties we had on the way.
Yeah, and I would say that also, even though you were kind of providing things that were not there, you were very serious and authentic about what you were doing, I guess.
Yes.
That there is this, you need to be genuine, because there's a lot about fake it until you make it, but there are also a lot of like escrow, you know, that
yes,
I mean,
I see.
there is a difference
Actually,
there is a difference between promising something because you know people are risky and you know you will go for it, and promising something that you won't do.
Yes, you are totally right. What we did actually when we collected the 1.2 million euros is that we deposited them on a locked account, and we promise. I mean, we didn't do a public promise, but we said with my co-founder that if we were out of cash to continue the project, we won't use the money of the backers, and we will just return the money to the backers and stop the adventure there. And I remember very well, one day there was only few weeks of cash remaining, and I was like at a very high level of stress because like it was just before Christmas, and we were, should we continue or should we stop? And it was just before the fundraising, just after the factory closed, and actually, like it was just a question of 1 or 2 weeks, but we managed to get the commitment of investors to continue. And I mean, but we were very close to stop. Like it was only 1 or 2 weeks.
And not touching this closed account.
Yeah, without touching we were ready to return the amount to the backers and to cancel our project.
Wow. And Victor, about having delays between what you promise and what you do, I think you have some testimonial to do on that.
We had.
And maybe you can first of all tell us, like, what did you convince a hospital to test your product first version, because also you're quite young as a team, so it's not easy to convince a hospital. And then what about this delay and possibility to validate the POC?
So how we convinced them? Thanks to the users. I always tell that, but that's very true. Because we talked a lot with different kind of users. They told us about their issues, and we realized we might tackle at least some of them. So when we gather with us doctors, nurses that want to test the product, they just ask the directions, and it's like the bottom up thing. They ask the direction to, okay, guys, please do something. We want to test it. Please allow us to do it. First, we were in contact with a public hospital, and we had 3 nurses that wanted really deeply to test the product. But there was some administration stuff, and they wanted to gather directors from a lot of directors, the IT, the HR, and so on. And COVID-19 didn't help for that, because it was a public hospital and they had to do something else but meeting for a new software. So with that, we might launch Hopia in April 2021. We launched it in March 2022. So we had some delay because we didn't realize what it meant to launch an app. Because of this delay, it was too late for the hospital to gather together. That was one of the reasons. Otherwise, we could have tested just for the 2 teams, but the delay didn't let it. And also we realized what it takes to develop an app, and we always have a lot of delay. So that was the first thing. We didn't lose any time because we kept talking to people and we kept building the product and we kept building what should be the MVP. And we realized that later, and that was very good not having launched the first thing before. We kept testing it with people, with showing them what it was. And how we did convince a whole hospital to believe in us. I had some time because I'm on the business part and the app was not ready. That's the delay. So I kept talking with people and I asked them, okay, can you tell me about your job? Can you tell me what you're doing and see? And I talked to a guy working in a IT project in this hospital, and we talked together. He told me about his issues and I told him about the project. 2 hours later, he called me back and said, okay, we want to meet you. And I said, yeah, but we are so young. We don't have any product. We don't have anything to show you. And we just an idea. Yeah, but we want to meet you and to know who you are. So we went to this meeting. It was the IT director. It was the performance director. So important people from the hospital. And we showed who we were, what was our vision. And we showed mock-ups. And the mock-ups were completely convincing because they say, okay, when you're ready, we talk together and we launch it. And we kept talking with them to know what was their problem, why they needed a solution, and to build it with them. So mock-ups and ourselves, who we really were, and our vision and what we show them, convinced them. And we have in the hospital, we have very good people that promote, very good promoters of the project, even though they never used it, even though they won't ever use it, or maybe because they want to test it, even if they don't do plannings, they want to have Hopia. And yeah, maybe the two things, mock-ups, because it was close to mock-ups built through what we understood from the client, and also showing who we were and how we can understand, and showing humility too. They really liked the fact that we said, okay, we're young, we need to understand, we need to learn what you need, and we will build it with you and for you. And they really like that. They really like the fact that we met different people, even though we had anything signed. We worked for the contract. We worked for 6 months, and now here we are. They are willing to pay anything, almost anything. And yeah, because we convinced them with who we are.
Wonderful. I have a last question, and then I will open the floor to the question of the participants. So do not hesitate to add in the chat, and also you will be able to open the mic. But my last question for this interview would be, I would be curious to have some kind of anecdote of, so just to make the context, when we support entrepreneurs, especially at the beginning, often they feel lost and they don't know where to start, what to do, and feel being in the middle, you know, of so many possibilities. And this is not something that is often visible within entrepreneurship class. So I think it's interesting for you, when you were starting, did you experience a situation where you didn't know what to do in the end? You were a bit lost in the middle of so many options. And could you tell us about a personal experience, and maybe also an experience with a co-founder, with your co-founder, where you arrive at the point where, well, it's difficult to deal with intuition, reality, hopes, capacities, and the fact that as an entrepreneur, you are in the middle of the unknown. So I would be really interesting to have a testimony, personal testimony, and maybe a situation with your co-founder in this dealing with the unknown of your adventure.
Victoire, you want to start, or I start?
As you want.
Okay. Okay, I can start if you want. So actually, for us, like it's true that like even today, very often we don't know what we have to do, because like actually it's our job as a founders of a startup to imagine and to think about what we should do as a company, and the task also for the people working in the company. So very often it's very difficult, particularly when you are young and when it's your first company, because actually when I started Daan Tech, I was 22 years old. I had no experience. I knew nothing about startups. I mean, I just worked at BPI. I never worked in a real company like in dishwasher, home appliances, etc. So actually, you need to be somehow naive very often. But if you are not afraid, you just start doing the things, and somehow, like just thinking about it, like you finally get the solution. Like for instance, when when the factory went bankrupt, actually we just think, okay, what we have to do. So what we have to do was to find new offices. So we went to small incubators, because we don't have a lot of money for the rent, and we were only 4 by the time. Then we moved to other offices which were bigger for the prototyping, and then we moved. So we hired by the time like 6 more people, and then we moved to other offices for the manufacturing. So it's really diving into the details step by step. So actually, I'm very optimistic. Like usually, I think everything is possible somehow. What I often say is that as long as the physics doesn't say something is impossible, it's possible. So as long as it seems theoretically possible, I just go for it step by step, and when you dive into the details, you finally find a solution. But for me, the real advice I can provide is really being focused on the details. What makes the difference between those who succeed and those who fails is really the ability to execute. Execution, and for being good at execution, is very important to dive into the details.
And an example of a situation with your co-founder where you had this
but like when the factory went bankrupt, actually we had to find another place, etc. But otherwise it was always the same regarding the R&D. Like actually it's very funny, because both Victoire and I were business people but also engineers, and like engineers we are used to solve a lot of problems, and actually to solve problems it's really like the discours de la méthode. You divide the problem into sub-problems, and we'll solve each sub-problem one by one. And actually it's exactly the same what we do at the company level. Actually being an entrepreneur is somehow designing a complex system, which is a company that is able to work by itself.
Victoire, do you have your anecdote?
Yeah, we'll first start with how to start. It's good to start up with a vision. It's great because it helps you in the bad moments remember why you're doing what you do, why is it hard, and to have some dreams. It's good to dream, and it's also, but it's more important, even more important, to know how you can make your dream come true. And I totally join you, Damian, on what you said. To tackle a problem, you need to divide it in some parts and to tackle one thing by one. We still want to do something for human resources, material resources, bed management, and so on. We will do it, but we first start to tackle one problem. And in that problem, there are different things to tackle. So keep your vision, that's great. Keep your mission, that's also amazing, because our mission is to help nurses, and it's really honest. So that's something great. But yeah, try to deep dive into what you're doing. First, what was the problem we wanted to solve? Okay, we want to help people do plannings. We may have a lot of functionalities that are really interesting for them, that will help them. But to build the MVP, we say, okay, what are the main inputs to have the output? So we realized, okay, there are 10 functionalities, we will only do 2 first. So keep focusing, and then after, when you do the 2 functionalities, you can do after. So that's how we train to do, and also learn a lot. Gather some knowledge. You gather the knowledge from your users, you gather knowledge from the industry, from competitors, from other people. We keep talking with potential competitors, with potential partners to know how they did it, because they're older than us. Even if it's only 1 year, they have something to share with us. So we keep asking them when we have a question. So shall we do it? We might ask, okay, did Dr. Lead do it? Okay, maybe just ask the guy from Dr. Lead who might have done it. So we keep gathering knowledge, users, partners, competitors, and also knowledge from yourself, because we need to have a vision of what we do. Did it work? And often it doesn't work, or doesn't work perfectly, but why? And the why and the way you tackle it is key, and it really helped us. Why we didn't manage to launch Hopia last year? Because we didn't realize what was a roadmap and how we do it. And we keep learning from ourselves. We keep learning a lot, and we never stop learning. So that's maybe how we can start. Try to know what the problem you are solving and how you will divide it in some parts. And something with my co-founder, Matthias, I met him like more than 2 years ago, and we really liked working together. And we still like a lot working together. We had some difficult moments too in the last 6 months, because we were 3 at the beginning. And we realized that the third guy, that was not the same match. And the same match make it, we could not work all the 3 of us and build the project we wanted to build, the 3 of us. That was a very hard decision, and we had to make it together and to know how we can do it, and to keep on the vision. So Matthias and I had the same vision, and that really helped us the way we wanted to build the company. And that helped us making this very hard decision, and we think it's the best for everyone now, but that was very hard to choose that. And recently, we also realized that since we had to make a transition in our roles from 3 to 2 people, we realized that we didn't make the transition properly recently, and that sometimes it's hard to know what the other are doing and to talk. And we realized we just needed to talk together and to realize that we need to be in the present and not in the psychology. And sometimes the psychology just adds some biases of the way we work together. And we just needed to, okay, we talk together thanks to with Maeva, because Maeva helps us a lot with that. And that's great these days. And yeah, and you will have hard times, but you need to learn from those hard times.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Well, we have 14 minutes Q&A for whatever you would like to ask to the speaker. You can either raise your hand or write it on the chat. I just see some question that we didn't discuss. One is was it planned from the beginning, the extension? Maybe Damian or like the question exactly is, was it planned at the beginning to go to the US market or not?
Not at all. Actually, it's even a problem because like we designed the product for the European market with the European standard, like 220 volts with a 50 hertz. And actually the US is 110 volts, 60 hertz. So actually we had to redesign the product to fit with the US market and to pay a lot of money to get the US standard, etc. So now that we are working on our second product, we design it to be a global product from the start to avoid the same pitfall as designing a product from Europe and then needing to adapt it for Taiwan, for the US, for South Korea, etc. So, I mean, maybe at the very beginning, we were not enough ambitious. Like we thought that, okay, if you are a manufacturer present in Europe, that's good. We will be doing some million euros of revenues and that's it. But we were not enough ambitious. And actually, today we are much more ambitious, designing products that are directly ready for the global market.
Victoire, are you already thinking about other countries, or
Yeah.
you're focusing?
We are already talking with other countries because I really like to interview people and I don't have any boundaries for that. So I talked with people in Switzerland because they speak French too, and it became prospects for us. So we think about Switzerland, at least the French part, for the next months maybe. And our next market, the biggest market we want to tackle in Europe is Germany. It's 50% bigger than France for our markets, so might be an idea. And since Dr. Lib and others, other health tech startups did go there, might be an idea.
Okay. Any question that you would like to add? Because if not, I will continue. I have so many, but I will shut up for.
Yeah, so there is some question in the chat. So how long it took to deliver the pre-order? It took 2 years. So actually people had to be very patient with the delivery of the product. And how did we get our first clients? So for me, actually, we got them using a peer and social network. Actually, but at the time, 6 years ago, people still used Facebook a lot. And actually, we made some memes that were like funny. And I very remember our first post that created a lot of buzz on Facebook. It was tag a mate who dream having Bob in his kitchen. And actually, a lot of people tagged each other, and we got 1.3 million views on Facebook. And from that, actually, we got interest from journalists, etc. Yes, also something very funny. Actually, a journalist from Télématin, a TV show in France, France 2, called me one day and asked me, do you have a product ready to show? Actually, we didn't have any prototype to show at the moment. So I said yes. And actually what I did is that I bought a competitor, I painted it, I added some 3D printed parts, and I said, ta-da, that is the product. And actually it worked very well. It was broadcasted on TV. And from that, we got a lot of coverage and a lot of interest. And it was the beginning of the success story during the pre-orders.
And you send chocolate to the competitor too.
Yeah, exactly. But actually,
I'm a big fan of
Europe,
oh, sorry. I'm a big fan of the way you communicate because that's often very funny and very powerful. Daan Tech might be the most liked thing, the thing I like the most on LinkedIn, different posts. So follow Damian and Daan Tech because they're really good in communication, and that's real communication, not the trendy thing.
And by the way,
we try to be authentic in what we do.
Yes, and I think you are really. And I was wondering, like, did you spend money, or are you spending money in Google Ads, Facebook ads, and all these? And if yes, when did you start? And to which extent do you think it's a way of financing Google, or really?
Actually, it depends. So actually, at the very beginning, we were totally broke. So we didn't have any money for advertising. So what we did actually, when the post tag a mate who dreams having Bob in his kitchen, is that we just put like 50 rows of advertising on Facebook to start the buzz actually, so that just few people see the publication and start to tag each other. And actually, once the buzz started, I mean, we didn't need extra budget. Same thing with a journalist, actually. When you do PR, you don't pay for the article because journalists are here to inform people that they can't accept gifts. So actually, it's very cheap. You just need to be very good at convincing them to talk about your product. And the reason why journalists will talk about your product and your company is the purpose that drives you and your team. Like actually, people don't care about the Bob dishwasher. Okay, it's cute, it's useful, etc. But actually, nobody cares. The reason why journalists cared about the product, it was because it was very symbolic. It was restarting an industry that has completely disappeared from France, and that's the reason why we managed to get that much coverage. And what we do with all our other products is keeping this mindset of doing things that are very different and very meaningful. Like our motto is designing meaningful things, because it's really what we want, what we are doing actually every day. I wake up and all of my coworkers wake up to have a positive impact on society. And that's the reason why journalists talk about it.
And about some ecology, it's also the ecologic part of the product, no?
Yes. Actually, we have two pillars at Daan Tech. The first one is minimizing our environmental footprint. Actually, it's not that's the consequence, but the main reason is that we are convinced that it's possible to keep a good living standard while respecting the environment. Actually, we are somehow opposed to degrowth, because like some people will tell you, okay, if you want to save the environment, just stop buying things, like go to the middle age and everything will be fine. On the contrary, we believe that we can make appliances that are compatible with modernity and respect the earth and the planet. And the second pillar was making things in France and proving that in France we're able not only to make like cheese, wine, and aircraft, but also useful products that are used by the many. Because what we believe is that if we want to have an impact on society, we need to do products that are used by everyone. Like, I mean, Fairphone is good, but actually it's not Apple. Like if we really want to have an impact on society, products need to be adopted by the many.
We don't hear you, Victoire. Your mic.
Sorry, can you disclose what's the next product? Because I'm very curious, but maybe you just cannot right now.
Yeah, sure. So actually it's called Joe. Joe is the oven. So actually it's a kind of all-in-one oven. The idea is to replace all the cooking appliances you have at your apartment. And this way you will save both space and pollution. Because actually if you have only one device instead of four, there is less e-waste, and we will have the same way of doing, using recycled materials, etc. So actually it will be a combination of a microwave, an oven, a steam oven, a toaster, and an air fryer. So with Joe you can cook fries without oil. You can do like meat, fish with a steam. I mean, you can cook everything just in one device.
We have some question again. If the startup was already created when asking for BPI grants?
Yes, for me, actually, we were already created, because you need to be created to ask for the BPI.
So it's connected.
But but be careful. Register your company only when you need it, because there are different grants in France or maybe in other countries that are related to the age of your company. So there's a grant at BPI, which is huge, but only for less than 1 year company.
Yeah, it's true. And yes. Even for instance, in Germany with the ESCP, we have the exist grant that you can only have if you didn't created your legal status. So that's really something specific. There is no clear rules on it, and as Victoire says, you create it when you need it, also because it's quite fast to create a company, so it's no rush in funding legally. The time is running, so it's a bit like you're sending question like 5 minutes before the end, so we're going to try to answer some of them. How did you find the factory in France, the first one? And what were the challenges to produce in France, which is a big question, Aza? The most important marketing channels today. And so if you are seeing, I guess, the question also, Victoire, how you connected with doctors and nurses. If you could have some quick answers to this question according to which one is addressed to whom, it would be super nice. And I have a question, Damian, are you in your factory?
Yes, right now I'm in the factory.
And so when we finished, would you go for like fastly in the factory so that you will see it? Or you
Okay, but if you want to see, I can do it only right now because actually I need to go with someone like in few minutes.
so
So
you
if
can
you want to go,
move there. Victoire will answer, and you will answer while walking, right? Okay,
okay,
and Victoire, you can answer to your two questions, and then Damian is showing us the place and answering the question about the factory.
Yeah. How did I connect with doctors and nurses? First, you're my own network and the one from my co-founders. That's the easiest one. Second, you just go on LinkedIn and type. I typed the keywords I needed, and I said, "Okay, I launched a software. I want to know about you, new paths, and your missions," and that works very well. So that's the way I connected with various people and created new prospects. Second question, how did I found my website application? I'm not pretty sure about the question, but
developers, you have a developer, you have teams of developers.
Yeah. I have a team of developers. There are 3 of them, and Matthias coordinates them, and he also develops a lot and works on the architecture. So Matthias is the tech CEO, and I'm the business one. And also we have a doctor in PhD in algorithm. So that's how we built it.
And
all from scratch.
You have some fundings from Central and from like in terms of money to pay them.
Yeah, that helped us a lot. We had fundings from Central, from Réseau Entreprendre. We also got a grant from BPI for the deep tech part. I didn't talk about, but that's not important for now. And different funding. And also our family helped us because we waited for the grants and we had to pay the salaries. And so some people from the family gave us some money for some months, and that helped a lot.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Victoire. So Damian, show us your factory.
Yeah, so I'm right now at the factory. So as you can see normally here, so actually we have right now only one assembly line. So at this time, like everyone has gone home already for the manufacturing part. So actually it's very somehow easy. So when I talk about step-by-step things, it's really the same when you manufacture a product. So actually we designed all the parts one by one. Then all the parts are made nearby 1 hour, within 1 hour by drive. They came here, and then we assemble the parts. So like we put the electronic board, which is also assembled in France, in Brittany, like all the parts one by one. Then the product moves on the assembly line. So every time we add a new part, etc. And until the end. So actually, so here we have all the parts which are coming. Then on the other part of the assembly line, we add the top with some options, like we have developed during the COVID crisis, UVC sanitization mode to sanitize items such as cell phones, credit cards, etc. So it moves. Then we choose the door depending on the serial number, which is linked to the customization chosen by the customer. So we choose the right color of the door. So there are plenty of colors. Then we test that the product is well connected to the earth so that it's electrically safe. And then we carry full testing here at the end of the assembly line to test with water that everything is working. And then once it has been tested, we add the outer plastic armature. Then we put it in the box and it's ready for shipping. So it's very straightforward, but like we divided everything into micro steps that by itself are easy to do. And for instance, yes, here we added like a 230 and a 110 volt, because right now, since we are shipping to the US and to Taiwan, we needed the 2 voltages. So yes, about the question how we find a factory. So actually we did it with the code NAS, which is actually a code in France used by the INSEE to explain which is your core business, like if you are manufacturing something or something else. And is it difficult to make it in France? Actually, not really. It's just a question of budget. I mean, as long as you have money, you can do everything. So actually, the most difficult part is getting the money. Manufacturing by itself is not the most difficult part.
And maybe one question about your success on M6. When you did this,
yes.
this show, so Damian participated in a French show on M6 with like on a channel TV where he won. Like there were investors that invest in the project for 1.5 million. Did it made so many people buying the product? Like how did it go in the end?
Yeah, actually, it created a lot of buzz with all the cryptos that we mentioned in the show, because we said
everybody
we will launch our
was
own crypto. Yes, and we will do it. We will do it. It's just a question of months. Actually, I hired 2 persons to work on the topic, but actually we didn't do the investment because we got a better deal since then. Because actually it was recorded more than 1 year ago. So in the meantime, there have been a lot of things that happened. So actually, we got an offer from 2 growth private equity funds, and actually we are working with them right now.
And now that you said crypto money, we should stay 1 hour more, but in a nutshell.
Yes, I'm sorry, but actually I need to go. If you want to contact me, you can contact me by email or on LinkedIn, Damian Py, Daan Tech.
But the crypto would be to buy than buy things.
I could talk about it.
Okay, that would be for a second, for another masterclass. Thanks a lot.
Maybe next time.
Of course, we will invite you more. That's for sure. Thank you so much, Victoire and Damian. I hope you had a nice time with this discussion, and we will invite you again. And thank you very much. Now we will stay for 1 hour more with our participants to work on their own projects. So thanks a lot. We will
let you
go and run with your cars and your meetings for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.